Good morning, Dr. Fred with Tuesday Morning Transformation. I know you're waiting for that, aren't you? Hey, what we're going to talk about today is we believe our body. What's that mean? What's Tuesday? Well, first of all, what's Tuesday Morning Transformation about? It's about being a spiritual being on a human journey. What's that mean? It's the hologram, right? From the reference point of our humanity to our divinity and back. Can we walk through the physical world as a human being with the divine higher consciousness? So when we look at we believe our body, what's that mean? We believe what we feel. Our physiology dominates our mind. Now there's a study out of Harvard that says your emotions are the dominant driver of your most meaningful decisions in life. So everybody knows we decide with emotion and we justify with fact. So our emotions drive our most meaningful decisions. And then in psychology today, there's articles, but all across psychology, we know that not only do they drive our emotions, but emotions create feelings, and emotions trigger our nervous system to create feelings in our body. And that physical experience then informs our mind. So Tony Robbins says 80% of success is physiology and psychology, 20% is facts. Why? Because our physiology, how we feel, drives what we think. So our physiology also wires our brain. And so being human beings, we can choose a whole spectrum of emotions at any time. In our human journey, we can go from the worst depression or suicide into the highest consciousness and most joyful state. And we have a choice of what we want to experience. It's the meaning we assign to something that determines what we feel. Now, when we realize that, then it's kind of like a metaphor of a child having a nightmare. When a child has a nightmare, they wake up, they're scared, they cry, the parent comes in, what's going on, what's going on? Hey, it was just a dream, it was just a nightmare, everything's okay. The child believes it's real. The child is analogous to our humanity. The parent is analogous to our divinity. The bigger parent, that means the bigger consciousness, right? And we say, hey, that wasn't real. So the way our mind works is it associates emotions with conditions, and then it wires them into our brain. So once that's wired, anytime a similar condition happens, it already brings up an emotion. You ever notice when certain things happen, then automatically you react in a certain way? That's because it's wired into you. Your mind is like the child. We are not our mind. We are spirit first, and our mind is a tool. Now in A Course in Miracles, it says the ego, meaning our humanity, will use the mind as a tool. We use the body as a tool to change our mind. So in order for our ego to survive, which is our mind, then it uses our physiology, right? It can create pain, it can create whatever these emotions are to change our mind. So when a person says, when you said this, you meant this. Or when you did this, this is how it made me feel. Or you said this, and this is how it made me feel. See, the problem with that is there's no responsibility in the meaning. We assign the meaning to everything. So when you say, when you did this, you made me feel like this. First of all, no one can make you feel any way. That's a choice. We have a whole spectrum of emotions that we can choose from. But what meaning did we assign? Nobody can make you feel any way. You choose the meaning. And so step one is to say, when this happened, I felt like this. So that way you're taking responsibility, because if you can't take responsibility, then you can't change it or resolve it. So when we feel a certain way, or you say, when you did this, you meant this, that's projection. And anytime you project a meaning onto someone else, you actually lose power to change it. Because when you project, you're giving up responsibility. And if you don't have responsibility, you lose the ability and the power to change it. So step one is to say, hey, when this happened, I felt this. Now, just the way the physiology changes our mind, we can use to create pain, right? Now, let me back up for a sec, because since we're emotional beings, people are continually expressing how they feel. Their actions and their behavior are an outward expression of what they're experiencing inside. So when we look at changing the meaning, then that means, and we take responsibility for how we felt, regardless of the violation, right? Regardless of how validated we feel, regardless of how right that is, if we see that that person is expressing their pain because they're so locked in their pain of their humanity, right? They choose the pain of their humanity that they don't have the power to get out of that. Then we can say, okay, when I felt this, what meaning did I assign? So you can actually use your physiology as a reference point, as a litmus test. Say, how do I feel right now? What am I focused on? What meaning did I assign? So when this person did this, then I perceived it as this intention. So the first question to ask yourself would be, what meaning did I assign? The second question would be curious and say, when you did this, what were you thinking? What you'll find is that person was thinking had anything to do with you, right? They're just off in their own world, accidentally stepped on your foot. You thought they intentionally stepped on your foot, but in reality, like, I wasn't even paying attention. Sorry, I stepped on your foot. And so that's the thing, is when we use our physiology to determine the meaning, to determine the emotion we're experiencing, then we can choose a different emotion and we can get back to joy. Does that make sense? When we feel out of control, when something hurts us, what do? How do we gain control? We gain control with anger, with frustration, with anxiety. And we can see, what meaning did I assign? Why was that hurt? How could I look at this as the parent, seeing that that's the child in the nightmare? Our divinity is the parent that says, it's just an illusion. You can change the meaning. You can perceive it from a higher consciousness. Then I can go from whatever emotion of hurt or pain or anger or just being neutral back into our natural state, which is the state of joy, the state of love. When we can stop in a moment, use our physiology as a tool, determine what meaning or emotion we've assigned, be able to take an empowered perspective from a higher consciousness, twist that perspective a little bit from our divinity, we can get back to the state of joy. We can resolve and heal that situation or person. We can help change the meaning for that person. And when we heal, we create healing in others. And isn't that why we're really here? So that's what I'm focused on, is getting to a higher consciousness, using my physiology to determine the meaning, and always choosing love, joy, and peace. Hopefully we can do that together. Thanks.